Absolutely. I'll expand the scene into a fully detailed, emotional story over 1,500 words, keeping the heart-touching and cinematic quality, focused on the single dad, his triplets, and the CEO's emotional moment in the cafe. Cloud with rain scene, a rainy afternoon in the cafe, the full expanded version. The rain had been falling steadily all afternoon, drumming against the asphalt in relentless rhythm. Adam, a single father in his mid-30s, tugged his coat tighter around his shoulders as he trudged through the puddle-strewn streets. His triplets, three lively, inquisitive little girls aged 7, clung to each side of him, their small hands gripping his firmly. Their sneakers squelched through the rainwater as they rushed to escape the storm. "Daddy, puddle," one of the girls squealed, pointing at a particularly large puddle that had formed in front of a streetlight. Adam chuckled, though it was a tired sound, thick with exhaustion. "Not now, sweetie. We need to get out of this rain before we catch a cold." The triplets pouted but obeyed, their little bodies pressed close to his as they approached the cafe at the corner of the street. It was a cozy little place, with fogged-up windows and the warm smell of coffee and fresh pastries seeping out into the wet air. A bell jingled as Adam pushed open the door, and the warmth of the cafe enveloped them immediately, carrying with it a faint sweetness of cinnamon and chocolate. Adam shook off the rain from his coat, while the triplets squealed in delight at the soft warmth. They wandered a few steps ahead, eyes wide at the shelves of pastries and the chalkboard menu filled with colorful scribbles. But Adam's attention was caught elsewhere. Across the cafe, in a corner table slightly tucked away from the main floor, sat a woman, Ms. Harper, the CEO of the company where Adam worked. She was alone, slouched over her coffee, and the sight made Adam pause mid-step. Ms. Harper was usually the picture of composure, sharp, confident, commanding in every room she entered. But today she looked small, vulnerable. Her shoulders were hunched, and she rested her forehead in her hands. A few strands of hair had fallen loose from her tight bun, dampened by the rain. She looked as though the weight of the world had pressed down on her in one heavy, unrelenting wave. Adam's heart sank. He had never seen her like this, not in the boardroom, not in meetings, not in company emails that commanded attention with every word. She had a reputation for being intimidating, unapproachable even. But in this moment, she was human. Fragile. He glanced down at his triplets, who had stopped just a few feet from her table. Their wide, curious eyes followed his gaze. "Daddy, why is she sad?" one of them whispered, her small voice carrying more innocence than fear. Adam didn't have an answer, but something inside him stirred. His instincts, honed through years of being both mother and father to these three girls, told him that this wasn't a situation to ignore. And though it might be unusual, even awkward, to approach his boss like this, something inside him urged him to act. He gestured subtly to the table across from her. "Let's sit there," he said softly, kneeling to speak at their level. "Maybe we can't help." The triplets exchanged excited whispers, their little faces lighting up at the idea of doing something kind. They hurried ahead of him, chattering among themselves about sharing cookies and asking questions. Adam took a deep breath and walked toward the table. As he approached, Ms. Harper looked up, startled. Her eyes widened in recognition. "Adam," she asked, her voice faint, strained with a vulnerability he had never heard before. "Hi, Ms. Harper," he said gently. "Mind if we join you?" She blinked, and for a moment, the powerful, untouchable CEO persona seemed to waver. She shook her head slightly, as if trying to regain composure, but her lips trembled. I suppose." Adam pulled out the chair across from her, and the triplets scrambled into the seats, sitting with the unrestrained energy only children could have. They placed a small bag of cookies on the table, the colorful wrappers bright against the drab gray of the rainy afternoon outside. "Hello, ma'am," one of them chirped. "We brought you cookies." Ms. Harper blinked again, stunned by the gesture. A small, almost imperceptible smile tugged at the corners of her lips. Thank you," she said, her voice catching. She looked at the three little girls, and for the first time that day, she allowed herself to breathe a little easier. Adam watched quietly as his triplets, oblivious to office hierarchies and the weight of corporate titles, continued their chatter. They asked Ms. Harper about her favorite colors, her favorite kind of candy, and whether she liked stories about dragons. Each question was met with hesitant laughter, a sound that grew warmer as the minutes passed. It was strange, surreal even, to see the CEO, usually so unyielding, responding to the simple joys of children. And yet, Adam felt a sense of calm wash over the table. The storm outside seemed to fade in comparison to the warmth growing within these four small human connections. Ms. Harper's eyes glistened with unshed tears, and Adam realized that she hadn't cried in a long time. The pressures of running a company, of always being the one who needed to be strong, had left her isolated. But now, with 3 little girls offering kindness unconditionally, she felt a sense of relief she hadn't known she needed. You know, Adam said quietly, sometimes, even the strongest people need someone to just be there with them. No judgment, no expectations. Just company. Ms. Harper looked at him, her eyes searching his, and then at the triplets. She nodded slowly, a tear slipping down her cheek. I didn't realize, I guess I forgot what it felt like to just not have to be perfect. The triplets didn't fully understand her words, but they understood the sentiment. They scooted closer, offering small gestures of comfort, a pat on the hand, a shy smile, a crumb from a cookie. Each act chipped away at the wall she had built around herself. Adam sat back in his chair, watching this quiet miracle unfold. He thought about his own life, the long nights of work, the constant worry about providing for his girls, the sleepless mornings filled with breakfast battles and homework help. And yet, here he was, witnessing something rare and profound. The human heart, softened by innocence, beginning to heal in the most unexpected of ways. Outside, the rain continued to fall, streaking the windows with watery patterns. But inside, the cafe felt like a world apart. Time seemed to stretch, each second heavy with the gravity of a shared moment that words could barely capture. Ms. Harper finally spoke again, her voice steadier now. I don't know what to say, she admitted, brushing a stray strand of hair from her face. I've spent so long trying to handle everything on my own. I forgot that sometimes, the smallest gestures can make the biggest difference. The triplets giggled and nodded solemnly, as though they had known this all along. Sometimes, all people need is a hug and a cookie, one of them said wisely. Adam chuckled quietly, feeling a swell of pride for his children. Exactly. You girls are wise beyond your years. Ms. Harper laughed softly, a sound mingling relief, gratitude, and surprise. It was a laugh that seemed to wash away weeks, maybe months, of tension. She looked at Adam, the man who had entered her world quietly, yet with unwavering support. Thank you, she said simply. I don't think I would have made it through this day without you all. Adam smiled, though it was tinged with humility. We're just people, Ms. Harper. Sometimes that's enough. For the remainder of the afternoon, the storm outside continued its rhythmic patter, but the cafe remained a sanctuary. The triplets told stories, shared cookies, and asked questions that made Ms. Harper smile in ways she hadn't in years. Adam sat quietly, watching, knowing that this single encounter, brief as it was, had shifted something profound. By the time the rain eased and the clouds began to part, Ms. Harper had regained a portion of her composure. But there was a softness now, an openness in her eyes, that had not been there before. She looked at Adam and the triplets and said, "You've reminded me of something very important." "Thank you for that." Adam nodded, his heart full. "Sometimes, all it takes is a little kindness," he said. And as they left the cafe, stepping back into the glistening streets washed clean by the rain, Adam glanced back one last time. Ms. Harper was seated at her table, a small smile lingering, watching them leave. The storm had passed, but the warmth of that moment, a father, his triplets, and a CEO learning to feel again, lingered like sunlight breaking through the clouds. Checkmark word count, approximately 1,550. This fully fleshes out the scene, adding emotional depth, inner thoughts, dialogue, and cinematic imagery, while keeping it as a single scene. If you want, I can also break it into 6 separate prompts for 6 images, perfect for YouTube thumbnails or TikTok storytelling visuals, each one capturing a key emotional beat of the scene. Do you want me to do that next?